You are listening to KC Sports Network, the #1 podcast network for today's Kansas City sports fans. With former players from your favorite teams, informed perspectives, and former insiders, this is the place for you. KC Sports Network is proudly presented by Emprise Bank, your partner in possible.
Welcome into another Three-Mod Pod. I am John Kurtz, joined by Cole Manbeck and Derek Young. This is way more fun than when we usually do it in front of a computer screen because we're live in color right in front of you from the bowels of the artist formerly known as Sprint Center that I will just refuse to call T-Mobile Center on first blush for the rest of my life. But we get to do not only all these awesome interviews that you guys have either seen already or will be seeing with Jerome Tang and company here at Basketball Media Days, but now we're doing the good old nitty-gritty football pod. So get ready for that. And you know what? You might pour yourself a nice drink while you do. Some Ben Holiday Bottled and Bond bourbon, might I suggest, or perhaps 360 vodka, whichever flavor you prefer. It is brought to you by Holiday Distillery, great supporters of our pod. They're K-State people, so please support them like they support us. And whether it is the 360 vodka or Ben Holiday Bottled and Bond bourbon, make sure that you get that ready to go. It's going to be a long day Saturday. Cole and I had a long day the other Saturday waiting for the Iowa State game. We got another primetime conference road game that you're going to have to wait. And this one's 7, right? It's straight up 7 o'clock, so it's even like an extra little hour or half hour from what we had at Iowa State, I believe.
I've got a group of 8 K-Staters that I'll be at the game in Fort Worth in Section 119. Come say hi. If you're a K-State fan, please buy tickets around us so we're not surrounded by TCU fans. And I will be sneaking in a flask of some Ben Holiday Bottled and Bond.
There you go. There you go. Okay, well, if you need tickets, go look at JL Kurtz on Twitter. There was a Texas Tech fan who told me, so these Tech fans, right, they tried to snatch up all these tickets for their game against TCU and, like, fill the place, flood it like they did against Texas, but they had to buy, like, a 3-pack. So there are a bunch of Texas Tech fans that have tickets to the K-State TCU game, and I retweeted this guy who says he has 12 of them. So if you need cheap tickets to the game in Fort Worth, don't hit up those secondary marketplaces. Just go on Twitter. Find it from my Texas Tech fan friend here. Look at this bond we formed with Texas Tech, man.
It's a great relationship. I really credit you for a lot of it with the Gambling Gachos guys and all of them. I mean, I think you've really developed a nice rapport with them. And
I appreciate that they keep losing to Kansas State as well.
That part helps. Yeah, that probably does help a little bit. All right, it's headline time. I think the biggest headline to me, not only in observing what happened at the press conference this week, but just in general has been, I mean, how needed the bye was just to get this team healthy. I know I saw Kleiman said, like, is there really that much of a tactical advantage or whatever for the bye week? Not really. It's much more so about just bumps and bruises, getting guys healthy. But we knew Deuce Vaughn was banged up. We knew Khalid Duke was banged up. We knew King Felix was banged up. Nate Matlack, Daniel Green. I mean, this is like a laundry list of the all Big 12 sort of guys that you have on your team that were all a little bit dinged up. But it sounds like DY right now, everybody pretty good. Anticipating playing?
They're all good to go. Chris Kleiman even said everybody that played against Iowa State is on track to play against TCU. So everyone's on track. I think the only one that maybe is a little in question is Khalid Duke. But he practiced on Tuesday, even if on a limited basis. I think we can hear T-Mobile Center noise in the background. But, yeah, Khalid Duke is, I think, the only one that's a little bit in question.
Yeah. Cole, you feeling pretty good about where this team's at health-wise?
It was a perfect time for a bye week to occur for sure. I mean, you're at that midway point of the season, and not only from a physical standpoint, but from a mental toll. I mean, we as fans felt it, right? I mean, Saturday against Iowa State was mentally exhausting.
It's really hard being a fan, let me tell you.
You know, honestly, it's gotten to the point where I don't actually enjoy watching K-State games. It's more like 3.5 hours of stress for me because last Saturday was the funnest day it helped that there were great games all day, but it was the funnest day I've had this year on a Saturday.
Well, let me tell you what the next 6 weeks might be like because they're all going to be close.
It's only going to get more tense.
I disagree.
John thinks
they're blowing somebody out down the street.
You've said they're blowing TCU out on Saturday.
That's group chat conversation. That's not public consumption. That's just because I want an excuse to use the SpongeBob gif where he goes like this and it says murder in a rainbow.
I was going to say use the
That's
M
the only
word,
reason.
The M word.
Well, look, from a health standpoint, the guy I'm really excited to see this weekend, Nate Matlack, and finally see him hopefully get back to full health because we've only gotten to see a glimpse of him healthy this year. He got banged up in the Tulane game and really hadn't been himself since. And with that bye week, it sounds like he made the most progress of anybody.
Coach Kleiman said he made the biggest leap. So
yeah, and if you can get him paired with Felix and then Khalid Duke all together in that trio, pretty exciting to watch what that pass rush could do. So that's a big part to me. Obviously, Deuce is huge. I mean, who knows if he would have been available without that bye week. Yeah,
it sounded like he was the one least dinged up, actually.
It was interesting, though, that they with Deuce, Chris Kleiman was adamant that he could not have returned it against Iowa State, but yet a few days after, they were already feeling very confident that he was fine.
I think he just rolled a knee, rolled an ankle. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, that is great news because full-strength K-State, man, I feel pretty good about them against basically anybody in this conference, including TCU, and that leads me into headline number 2. Against TCU in this spot. I mean, if I were a TCU fan, I'd be a little worried about the situation that you're in, right? So if you go back 2 weeks ago, College game day went to Lawrence, Kansas. I'm not sure if you guys heard, but that was a thing that did happen. And that was there for the TCU game, right? So not only do you have the hoopla and the hype around that game, because it wasn't just about Kansas, it was also about, hey, here's this unbeaten top 20 TCU team there. They take a pretty good shot from Kansas. I mean, close to Kansas's best shot, certainly that they could give, I think, with a backup quarterback in the second half, throwing for 4 TDs. But you find a way to win. You move on, and you have an even bigger game against Oklahoma State, and it is this war of not only what's happening on the field, but just the emotion that went into that. I mean, a double overtime game, so it's longer than your typical game. You're perhaps more beat up, just emotionally drained. I mean, that was a very emotionally draining game to watch. And for Max Duggan and company to lead that sort of comeback, it was incredible. Great theater to watch as a football game. But if I'm a TCU fan, I'm sitting here saying, like, man, can we get back up to that same emotional level that we've been on for the last 2 weeks when we had game day and then we had the huge game against Oklahoma State where it took a monster comeback? It feels like a kind of letdown spot here for TCU.
I would agree. And they're also probably at a point, and this is just kind of like human nature that we all cling to, not something that must happen, but they're also due for a little bit of a down game from the offense, particularly Max Duggan. If you look at his career and what he has been typically, historically as a quarterback, it hasn't been this consistently good. This is kind of a new Max Duggan that we're seeing, just like for most people that would say this is a new Adrian Martinez that we're seeing. So if you believe in the whole regression to the norm thing, we're probably approaching that time for both of the quarterbacks. So we'll see which one may be more susceptible, more vulnerable to that. You also have to think TCU's this is the first time they've been in the top 10 since when, 2014, 2015?
See, I mean, that's the other thing. If there's one of these two teams that's been reading their press clippings, as Bill Snyder would say a little bit,
right.
it'd be TCU much more so than K-State because K-State won in Ames, but that wasn't pretty. It was a 1-point win, and it was not like people were running around being like, hey, look at this team, they're great. TCU now is getting some of that treatment. Like, hey, I listen to so many national college football podcasts, and the conversation, they're like loosely on the fringe there of like, hey, is this a team that we need to start including in the playoff conversation? I mean, that's where TCU's at right now because they're unbeaten.
That, and I've seen there are some people that think it's almost a lock that it's Texas versus TCU in Arlington at this point, which I think is a little bit of crazy talk without balanced. And
well, Cole just rolled his eyes pretty hard at that.
Without balanced and like the parity in this league, saying it's a lock for any. Now it's not like, I'm not saying that a ton of people are saying that, but everyone almost seems convinced that those are the two best teams. Would you agree? It seems like a lot of other people would agree.
Probably. I think there's enough respect for Oklahoma State that some would hold off on saying that, but I get the point that you're making. The hype for Texas is off the chain, and whatever. We can talk about Texas later, but we'll give Cole the floor.
Well, we need to look at TCU's schedule probably a little more in depth, but what I do know is this is their third home game out of 4 Big 12 games, right? And then they're going to have some road games coming up down the road. Now, they already got Oklahoma State out of the way, and well, it feels strange to say Kansas on the road being a difficult game, but it certainly was. So
no defense, though.
Yeah, no defense, and so I definitely wouldn't put TCU in the Big 12 title game at this point. I'm still questioning how real they are. DY mentioned a Max Duggan game. I mean, I think there's an opportunity for that to occur in this game, and that's not disrespect to Max Duggan. I mean, really, this is a game that's a battle of two of the best comeback stories in college football at the quarterback position, right? Look at Max Duggan and what he's been able to do when he wasn't going to be the starting quarterback, didn't transfer, didn't pout, stayed at TCU, and now is having a great year. And Adrian Martinez obviously has really bounced back from his days at Nebraska and is having a great season for Kansas State. So some real redemption stories here at the quarterback position, but I just don't know. Look, Sonny Dykes was not my favorite hire when he was named the TCU head coach. Right now, it looks like I've been proven wrong, but I still think that Sonny Dykes will have a Sonny Dykes moment as well. And I think Kansas State has a coaching advantage on Saturday. So I think K-State can go into TCU and get off to a 4-0 start in Big 12 play, and I actually feel somewhat confident in that. The bye week plays heavily into that. You mentioned it, John. I mean, when they were playing Oklahoma State on Saturday, one of the things I joked about before the game was I wanted a 7 overtime type game, and then it goes to double overtime. It's not just the mental toll, but the physical toll on the bodies of TCU and playing 80-plus snaps in that game and the physicality of playing an Oklahoma State team. And we saw Max Duggan banged up. Yeah, he was massaging a shoulder in the overtime periods of that game. He started to get hit more. And so, look, they have Chandler Morris, the guy that they actually named the starter going into the year. He's back. He's in uniform on the sideline against Oklahoma State. So they have a quality backup option. But I don't know. I feel like TCU's kind of due for that kind of dud-type game. And I think K-State's defense is good enough. And I want to mention this.
By far, Kansas State, the best defense they'll have played this season.
Yeah, I wanted to mention that, DY. So look at the defenses that TCU has played in terms of points per drive allowed. Colorado, 121st out of 131 FBS teams.
They're great.
KU, 116th in the country in points per drive allowed. SMU, 103rd. Oklahoma, 88. OSU, 67. K-State, 1.54 points per drive, 14th in the country. The best defense they'd played in points per drive allowed was Oklahoma State at 67, and then it's 88 and on up that they played.
To point out, I think it's worth pointing out, not that your point can't be made, but K-State's also being propped up by playing the two worst offenses in Big 12 in Iowa State and Texas Tech.
Well, you make a good point there as well, DY, and I actually pulled those numbers because I want to be consistent in how I present this. If you look at the offenses that K-State has faced, in terms of the K-State defense going up opposing offenses, Texas Tech 82nd in points per drive, Oklahoma 24th in points per drive, Missouri 102nd.
Oh.
Yeah, Iowa State 94th.
Sorry, Tucker.
Yeah, sorry, Tucker. Iowa State 94th, and then Tulane 43.
Look at Tulane.
And I'll also say
dogs.
For the Oklahoma one, they got the best version of Oklahoma.
They did.
Yep.
And that's something that people need to remember is that when K-State beat Oklahoma was a top 10 team at that time. The energy was high. Their confidence was high. Their stadium, their fan base was energetic and into it. So K-State took Oklahoma's best shot, a better shot from Oklahoma than any other team in the Big 12 has had because of that. That was the morale was high at Oklahoma at the time.
In a full four quarters of Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah, so I would argue K-State's win was the most impressive against Oklahoma out of any Big 12 team because of what they did, and I think they exposed some holes in Oklahoma's team.
Yeah, totally true. I'm kind of amazed that Tulane's offense is that high. I mean, they were missing their starting quarterback for a minute there, too.
Yeah, they didn't have him against Houston.
And their defense is in the top 10.
Yeah, it was the defense that I thought was the real strong suit there.
Yeah, TCU or Tulane's defense is number 9 in the country in points per drive allowed. Iowa State's 16th. So K-State has, and Missouri's 36th. They've been really good defensively, especially in SEC play. So if you look at the defenses K-State's offenses went up against, they played really good defenses. It's just my whole point is TCU is going to face the best defense by far.
Yeah.
And I'll be curious how they do offensively with the explosive plays because that's a TCU team that relies a lot on explosives.
Well, you guys know I'm all about narratives, storytelling in games here, and I think a big part of this is what we've talked about for a while in headline number 3, getting over the hump. The Iowa State game was, hey, get over the hump, set yourself up for a top 20 matchup, which I saw. What was the stat that's going out there? It's the first since 2014, since the Alamo Bowl. This is the first time K-State has played a game between two top 20 teams, which, I mean,
came from D. Scott.
Yeah. That is great. Yeah, okay, there you go. I'm glad we give proper attribution there. It's a great stat from D. Scott because it underscores the point that we've made so many times on whether it's been Power Cat Game Day over the years or this podcast here. It's Kleiman and K-State need to get over the hump to where you're playing big games, and they did that with Iowa State. So now you're here.
Yep.
You're on the precipice of this. You win this. Now you set up next week.
Perhaps.
We know that K-State's got an outside shot at College Game Day, depending on what happens with Oklahoma State, Clemson, some others, Ohio State, Penn State. But they're on the short list next week. I mean, that could be a massive game. Even if Game Day is not going to be there, you, put yourself in great position to be in Arlington. You're probably going to jump yourself up into the 12, 13, 14 range in the country if you win this game. Maybe, I think 12, 13 probably.
Yep.
You win this game against TCU. I mean, then you're going to really generate a lot of conversation about yourself. So you've leveled up. This is a chance to level up once again.
Yeah, and I would just say that the only detail you're probably didn't mention was even the next week with Texas, then you're looking at a potential big noon kick type of atmosphere for that one. So, I mean, let alone, let's put it this way. If you knock off TCU, you're setting up 2 monster home games against Oklahoma State and Texas. Both are already sellouts. The Kansas game at the end of the year, Kansas State, I think I saw somewhere, I mean, they've had every home game sold out now for, I think, a couple of weeks. I think they were the first team in Big 12 to sell out every home game this year.
Yeah, 102% capacity, I believe, on the year, which is only going to go up with standing room only. People are going to buy up these tickets as they continue to win. And, you know, to your point, John, in the Chris Kleiman era, every time they got ranked right around that 24th, 25th spot in the polls, they lost in the very ensuing week and never sniffed the top 25 again. It was the 2019, 3-0 non-con start, lose to Oklahoma State, then lose to Baylor at home. Not ranked to win the rest of the year. Same thing in 2020, 4-1 start to the year with the win at OU, and then drop out of the polls after they dropped several games and didn't win a game in the last 6 weeks of the year. And now they are at that position where the Iowa State game kept them in the polls, kept them moving up, and now they're on more of the national radar at this point, and you had the bye week, so you continue to just kind of climb. And now if you beat TCU, to your point, you're a near top 10 team in the country, and you're being talked about as a legitimate, well, not playoff contender, but you'd be a favorite to get to the Big 12 championship at that point because you would have won 3 games on the road, all under the lights, which is another thing. I mean, you look at K-State's schedule, you know, it's unfortunate they're having to play all these road games at night because that's when you get teams' best shots often, but, you know, that's what makes it so impressive. They can snag this game. You start to own a lot of tiebreakers against other teams. And what do we talk about? You set up an electric atmosphere, probably the best atmosphere you've had in a K-State home game since 2012 at that point. Now, you could look at the Auburn game in 14.
I was going to say, Auburn 14 was pretty lit. I mean,
that was fantastic. So I would say, you know, at least at that level, I'm ready to hear. It's not that the atmosphere has been poor in Manhattan, but I'm ready to hear that stadium rocking again like it used to do back when K-State was a powerhouse. And I think the opportunity is there for that to occur against Oklahoma State if you beat TCU.
It'll be interesting to see what time that game is with Oklahoma State the following week, right? After the TCU game, they put it on a
we're on the 6-day window, so we don't know.
I believe
it's anything but a night game, I think.
It won't be. It's probably not going to be a night game from what we understand. I believe there's a good chance it's going to be a 2:30 game on ABC or ESPN, hopefully. Now, FS1 also has a 2:30 window, I believe, Fox Sports 1. But there's also an opportunity to be at 11. I don't understand putting it at 11 if it's not the big game, big noon game on Fox. If it's not that, then, and it's not going to be that because they already announced that.
With 11 o'clock, ABC's open.
Yeah, you put it at 2:30 on hopefully ABC or ESPN.
Just not. You're not telling me there's an outside chance I get Brando 2 weeks in a row, is there?
Oh.
That would be I think that would be a Brock Heward, Jason Benetti game.
Because I don't think.
Well, I heard FS1 get brought up at one point in there, and I was like, ugh.
It did actually.
It's crazy that this game's FS1, right? Whew.
It is.
Because
baseball.
Phillies, Padres. Yeah.
Phillies, Padres is what's making me listen to Tim Brando for 3 hours this Saturday.
Yeah.
Hey, come to Fort Worth. You got extra tickets.
I know where to get 12 of them. Yes, you are correct. That's a fair point. Fair point. All right. I hate to disappoint everybody.
John always makes an enemy out of everyone. Now we get the Philadelphia Phillies fans coming at us.
Oh, you know, they're fine. I actually kind of like the Padres. The Padres are
too.
I've sort of I love San Diego, and I've seen a handful of Padres games in my life. So, you know, I'll take the Padres. But we do not have a DY conversation of the week. DY's Sunday conversation is not happening this week. We had some technical issues.
User error.
It's okay, though. You know, he was coming back from Cabo. It was, you know, long night of – what time did you actually get back, by the way?
Ooh, it was like 1:30 a.m. We actually deplaned on the tarmac because we got back so late and no one was manning the gate.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty late. All right, so cut DY some slack here. We do not have a DY conversation of the week. That just means you get more of us, though. That's okay. Plus, we got like 1 million basketball interviews coming at you over the next few days, so we'll make up for it. We promise. TCU preview time, Cole. We've already talked a little bit about them, but, man, I mean – I will say this, Max Duggan deserves all the credit in the world for the turnaround that he's put together this year. I mean, the guy was not even going to start, and he didn't transfer. He was going to just stick around because he loves TCU. And that, I mean, there was talk at one point, and more on this later, about is Duggan a guy that K-State can go get in the portal? Because the assumption was he would be in the portal with Dykes and Chandler Morris. He's not. He's been playing phenomenal football. Didn't play a great first half against Oklahoma State, but turned it on in the second half. And then, I mean, he's got some dudes. Quentin Johnston, in particular, a receiver, is an absolute dude and a total stud. So there is plenty to be concerned about with the TCU offense.
Well, what's interesting about it, when you think of Sonny Dykes, right, an offensive mastermind, you don't think of running the football necessarily in terms of commitment to the run, more of an aerial assault type. But
he's an air raid guy.
Yeah, well, they're rushing for 240 yards per game, which is top 10 in the country, and they are number 1 in the country with 6.6 yards per carry on the season. Kendra Miller. So Kendra Miller, he kind of got overshadowed last year, right, guys, when Zach Evans was the running back who then eventually transferred to Ole Miss. Zach Evans, top running back recruit in the country out of high school. Kendra Miller has averaged 7 yards per carry in his entire career. And we're talking over 200 carries in his career. This is his 3rd season. He's 6 foot, 220-pound power-type running back with over 1,600 yards rushing in his career. It really starts with him and the physicality he brings to the table in the running game. And then DeMarcado is another running back they utilize who's a 5th-year senior, experienced in the program, has over 1,200 yards rushing in his career. And then Max Duggan at quarterback has rushed for nearly 1,800 yards in his career and averaged over 4.5 yards per carry throughout his 5 years at TCU. So they have a lot of options in the running game, which makes them much more harder to defend and pin your ears back and go after the quarterback because they're so balanced. In fact, 52% of their plays on the year are passes, 48% runs. Very balanced.
Okay.
You look at K-State on the other end, on the offensive side of the football, 62% of K-State's plays are runs, only 38% passes. So TCU is a very balanced team comparatively. But, yeah, that running game, that first and foremost, that's what K-State has to try and take away. K-State's given up about 4 yards per carry on the season. So you got to start to make them a little more one-dimensional so you can key in on those receivers. But it's very challenging.
To kind of jump off that, I wrote some things down too that kind of go into TCU has a better success rate as a running team than they do a passing team. Actually, their passing success rate is only better than Kansas State, Texas Tech, and Iowa State. So their success rate as a passing unit is not very good.
Wow. Okay. Okay, that makes sense. Where does 4 yards per carry rank, by the way, in the Big 12 for K-State? Do you know that off the top?
Well, John, I always prepare us for this. So let's yards per rush, 4 yards per carry, 54th in the country. Now I'm not sure
so
where
it's solid.
It's not bad by any means. And I think Oklahoma was the one team that kind of exposed them in the running game a little bit. But look, we know how that offense plays.
And Kansas State's a better pass defense when it comes to success rate than a rush defense. Kansas State is number 1 in the Big 12. Success rate against the pass.
Yeah, you look across the board, they're top 25 in the country in every pass defense type metric, pass efficiency D, et cetera. I think there's an opportunity to get after Duggan in this game. Look, we know Felix had 6 sacks. I'm not going to say he had 4 last year.
Well, that's right. He had 6 sacks against TCU last year.
I will say this. TCU is number 1 in the Big 12 in havoc allowed, least havoc rate allowed.
Oh, okay.
So they're not getting negative plays, right, for our listeners.
And Kansas State's number 2.
Okay.
So both teams.
Look, the one thing, they're big on explosives at TCU, so they lead the Big 12 with 28% of their plays overall go for 10-plus yards. This is from KSU_fan, Jimmy Goheen. I don't want to take the credit for him. He tweeted out this graphic, so thanks to Jimmy on this. Give him a follow at KSU_fan. He's a great follow and great analytical and advanced stats guy. They're second in the Big 12 TCU offenses in plays of 20-plus yards, and they lead the Big 12 in plays of 50-plus yards. At nearly 2% of their total plays go for 50-plus yards. Now, you look at K-State's defense, they're giving up the fewest percentage of plays of 10-plus yards on the season per Jimmy. So, it's a really interesting matchup, and you look at TCU's receivers and how good K-State's been in the secondary to what you mentioned, DY. This is where it becomes a little bit tricky because it's not just Quentin Johnston. Quentin Johnson, 6'4", 215-pound receiver, very talented, dynamic. He has 22 catches for 386 yards in his last 2 games. First 4 games, you and I watched the KU game I mentioned to you. He only had like 114 yards in the first 4 games of the season, but we knew the potential was there for him. What makes them even more dangerous, though, is it's not just Quentin Johnston that has been good. They have a ton of experienced receivers that are in their 4th and 5th year in the program. Johnson's in year 3, but Tay Barber, 5'10" senior in year 5 at TCU, more than 1,700 yards receiving in his career, 136 catches. Darius Davis, 5'10" senior, year 5 in the program, 91 catches for 1,200 yards in his career. And then you add in Savion Williams, who's only got 150 yards or so receiving, but he's 6'5", another big physical receiver. And then Jordan Hudson, who has about 115 yards receiving on the year, a true freshman that was the number 70 player in the country in the last recruiting class according to the On3 consensus, and the number 9 receiver in the country according to On3. So there's talented weapons all over. And that's not even to mention Jared Wiley, a 6'7" transfer tight end from Texas who's big and physical and has a good catch radius. They're so big and long.
That's the thing. I mean, TCU has talent. Like Gary Patterson was always recruiting at it was consistently, they were the third best recruiting team in the conference behind Texas and Oklahoma. So, I mean, they have a lot of talent. I mean, this is not the perfect analogy, but John Blake recruited a lot of talent to Oklahoma. He couldn't coach it. He left and Bob Stoops came in and 2 years later won a national championship. I mean, so the cupboard was not bare for TCU certainly. And your point about the receivers takes away any thought of Julius Branch, just throw him on Quentin Johnston and call it good. Can't really do that.
No, you're gonna have to rely on a lot of rotations to keep the guys in the secondary fresh with all the different guys that they're going to throw out there, and then the physical toll of their running game that will take on K-State's defense. So, yeah it's definitely going to be K-State's toughest test to date on facing an offense.
All right, so what's the trickiest part about the Frogs' defense?
Well, this is interesting because you and I watched the KU game together when they played in Lawrence, TCU that is, and I came away thinking that defensive line for TCU wasn't very good. I mean, they got no pressure on Jason Bean. Jalen Daniels, they shut down. It was interesting. They kind of shut him down the first half. Now there was a fumble at the goal line, but, when you look at that game, Jason Bean comes in and he's hitting them for big play after big play, and we saw what Jason Bean is last weekend. That's the real Jason Bean that we saw at Oklahoma.
He did still score 42 points.
I mean, he should have had 5 interceptions in that game. He had 2.
But one of them that got picked was one of the most miraculous plays you'll ever see.
Well, that makes up for some of the other ones that he threw right to Oklahoma that were not caught. But, he played a heck of a game against TCU, but there were guys wide open everywhere in that game. I'm not sure what to make of TCU's defense. OSU was up 24-7, but then they don't score a touchdown in the second half and only get 6 points. Oklahoma State, they shut them down on that side of the ball. It's really interesting. I know DY is going to have some numbers on this too, but Joe Gillespie, the defensive coordinator, he comes in from Tulsa under Sonny Dykes, and Tulsa's defense has been pretty good the last couple of years under Gillespie, the coordinator there. They were 18th in points per drive allowed in the country, and he's one of the finalists for defensive coordinator of the year. They run a 3-3-5 stack similar to what K-State runs on the defensive side of the football, and he's overhauled a defense that, consider this, guys, TCU last year, 125th out of 130 FBS teams in points per drive allowed under Gary Patterson. 127th in yards per rush allowed was 6.1 yards per carry allowed last year, and 112th in sack percentage last season. This year, they're giving up 3.7 yards per carry, ranking 41st in the country. And, I'm looking at the numbers here that I've got pulled up. They've made big jumps pretty much across the board on the defensive side of the football. So they're better, obviously, than what they were last year. I still think K-State can expose them some.
They're better than they were last year. They're still not great. Some of those rush defense numbers sound good. Success rate, though, 8th in the Big 12. Their rush defense success rate. So when it comes to down and distance, that's what it measures. Not getting the job done for the most part. That's only better than Oklahoma and Kansas against the run. So, and then when it comes to Kansas State's rushing offense, we know it's pretty good, right? Well, Kansas State is the ninth least explosive team on offense in the Big 12. So it's one of the worst. It is the worst on pass. The only reason why they're ninth and not last is because Kansas State is the most explosive team on the ground.
Well, I was just going to say, see, that surprises me. I would have thought, because that's kind of been the narrative on the offense all year, is that they're actually pretty capable of explosiveness.
It's all in the run. All in the run game. Their explosives have almost exclusively came in the run game. Kansas State's #1 explosive running game in the entire Big 12. TCU 8th in success rate against the run. So if Kansas State has an advantage, offense versus defense in that, it would be the running game.
Overall, K-State, when you look at plays of 50-plus yards, and this is, again, KSU_fan that came up with this, second in Big 12 in plays of 50-plus yards at 1.8% overall, but then the 10-plus yards, not. I think they're at the bottom of the Big 12 in plays of 10-plus yards percentage and 20-plus. It's really just you've had some explosives on the 50-plus, and they're all running game. Adrian Martinez and Deuce Vaughn. To DY's point, does K-State, with Malik Knowles and Phillip Brooks, that was probably K-State's only 2 50-yard-plus passes. And
the Cade Warner one? No, that was probably over 20. That was about it.
Yeah, you need some more explosives. And one thing that's going to be interesting to watch in this game is just the fact that they're forecasting 20 to 25 mile per hour winds. So who does that actually give an advantage to? The game's at night. It's going to be warm, but it'll be cooler because the sun will be down. It'll be dark, but
both teams like to run the ball.
Both teams effectively run the football, right? Now, I would argue that it maybe takes away from TCU a little bit more if they can't throw it as well because they have a better passing game and more weapons at the skill positions. If K-State can gear up to stop the run more, then you feel a little bit better about that. But, yeah, this is Look, it's a defense. You look, yards per completion allowed, 13.3. That's 109th in the country. And I don't like to use that stat very much, but that shows that TCU is giving up some explosives in the passing game. Sack percentage, 65th in the country. Look, they're much better on the defense side of the football, but I still think K-State's offense can put up points against this defense, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if K-State controls the clock in this game.
Would love it. Did you have something else, DY? I'm sorry.
I would just say a sneaky outcome for this game would be a shootout. There's the elements are there for a potential shootout, which would surprise people. No, John, not the M word. Not the M word.
Murder. Okay, quick hitters time. Let me just get us away from that quick, because I do not want to sound like a fool. Again, that was supposed to be group text only. That was group text only, and DY has now exposed me for using the SpongeBob murder gift this week. Quick hitters, this is one that's generated a lot of discussion among us before even doing this pod. If I gave you the option of taking, so it's like a button here, okay, right? I'm going to present you with a button. You can hit it, and if you hit this button, K-State finishes 9-3 in the regular season. There you go. Yeah, thank you. K-State finishes 9-3. No, you do not win the Big 12 championship. Let the chips fall what they may as far as making the Big 12 championship. So you'd have a pretty good chance, but not totally guaranteed of getting to Arlington. Or you can just let it ride. Would you hit that button to be guaranteed 9-3? Wow, you guys are both hitting it, and I'm not.
Because 7-2 is going to get you to the Big 12 championship.
It's a lock.
Yeah, it's a lock.
That's a lock for a Big 12 championship.
I don't think it's mathematically, I do not believe that to be an accurate statement.
That is an accurate statement.
It's accurate when you look at this league and realize how tough it is to win every week. I mean, Texas will probably lose 2 conference games.
There's already 6 teams in this league have 2 losses already in Big 12 play.
Yeah.
So, and Oklahoma State and Texas are playing each other this weekend. So there's a second loss for one of them, right? And if K-State gets a 7-2, that pretty much means they got to beat they got to beat TCU, Oklahoma State, or Texas, at least one of those teams. You got the tiebreaker. Bang, bang, bang. You take it 9-3, get to Arlington, have a chance to play for a Big 12 title. I take that.
But you're not winning the you're not winning the Big 12 championship in this scenario.
Well, you didn't say you.
I did
you
say
said
that.
No guarantee of a title.
I said no Big 12 championship. That should say no guarantee of getting there. I was typing quickly, but when I spoke it, I said, you don't get the Big 12 championship. It's basically
so
losing.
You're telling me take 9-3 with no Big 12
lose
title
the Big 12
appearance?
championship.
Well,
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that went fine.
How was that not clear in the statement? I've been making that statement the whole time.
No, that wasn't clear at all. Tucker, was that clear? No. Yeah.
That's why I'm okay. Thanks for waiting for Tucker's response there. That's why I'm saying I would let it ride, because
I'm glad there's no one over there. I would have knocked him out.
You would have hit Jason Anderson of 8-10 earlier.
Yeah, I'm very bullish though. I'm very bullish on this team right now. So anything that's not giving me a Big 12 championship, let it ride.
I thought you meant no guarantee of getting to a Big 12 title. Would you take 9-3 right now? And I was saying yes, because that will get them to a Big 12 title. I wasn't. Okay. If you're telling me 9-3 and they're not getting to Arlington, no, I don't take that.
9-3 and like a loss to Texas or something.
You're basically saying 9-3 and losing to Arlington. Yeah.
Oh. No. Well, kind of want to get to the title game.
See, I mean, I knew it would still be intriguing.
I think I'd still take it because of the excitement, and I've already told.
No, you can't. I threw it.
Well, the button's gone. You lost your chance.
I take it because I've already promised my 5-year-old we're going to that game, and he's pretty darn excited if we make it. So, yeah.
You're going even if we don't make it?
No, I'm saying we're going if K-State makes it.
He's pushing the button because of Brody.
Yeah. He's invested now. He's already He's asking me every week, how many games do we need to win now to get to Cowboys Stadium? So
Brody's going to love Texas TCU.
Well, we're not going if it's not K-State.
We'll
be at Wichita State, K-State basketball.
That's right. That's right.
He's going to be surprised when it's not called Cowboy Stadium and it's AT&T Stadium.
I know. Well, he asked me if the Star would be on the field, and I said no. He's then led to a lot of questions about how do they get the Star off the field for the game.
Hey, it's a fair question.
Yeah.
It's a fair question.
John's still wondering about that.
Yeah. Okay. I mentioned earlier that this was like rumor mill sort of stuff, but I remember very early in the offseason when it was clear K-State was going to need to hit the portal for a quarterback, and Sonny Dykes gets hired, and the thought at TCU was like, all right, Chandler Morris is going to be the guy. So Max Duggan's obviously going to transfer, and there was talk, I know, for instance, on DY's boards about like, all right, how do we feel about Max Duggan?
My boards.
Kleiman's. Well, the problem is I was going to say –
you started the rumor.
Well, I was going to say like on 3 or whatever, but it was not on 3 then, so I didn't want to name your – so I'm assigning it to you, okay? There was conversation there about like how would everyone feel about Duggan, because Kleiman's always spoken pretty highly of him. Kleiman always seemed to be like a guy that really liked Max Duggan. So what's K-State's record if Max Duggan were the quarterback this year instead of Adrian Martinez?
4-2.
You seen how Max Duggan's played this year?
Yeah, but I also recognize that, look, he can run the football. I just mentioned the numbers, but he's not as explosive as Adrian, and he doesn't have the weapons at the receiver position that he's so reliant on at TCU and the Sonny Dykes offense. I just feel like he's a better fit in what they do schematically than he would be at K-State. And, that, again, he's a dual-threat guy, but I like him in the scheme more at Sonny Dykes' system than at K-State, and I don't know if he'd be nearly as effective with the receivers.
That's a great point, Cole. 4-2. That's a good answer.
5-1.
All right.
He loses to Oklahoma but beats Tulane.
I feel like John cut me off like he was tired of hearing me explain it.
No. I was trying to be cheeky there and saying, like, actually, you made really good points after I kind of made fun of you, and now I'm on your side.
Well, I didn't know because earlier we were all really giving each other a hard time.
You still think we lose to the Tulane if we play him again? I don't think I agree.
Ooh, playing him again? I thought it was just,
We'll see him in the Sugar Bowl.
We could
See him in the Sugar Bowl.
I mean, look,
It's not out of the question.
I'm telling you, this is so strange. I think I cursed the Tulane game by bringing Jimmy Ordino on, our guest that week, to give the spotlight on TCU, who played on the 98 Tulane team, and he brought up, we played on the last Tulane team that was ever ranked, and they went undefeated, and now they're ranked again for the first time since 1998.
And have you seen all the bowl projections? They're like in New Year's.
They're getting Group of 5 buzz, yeah.
Well, because they have one of the best wins in college football this year.
That's GD right, Cole. That's right. Yep, they do. Hey, shout out to Tulane, man. The Green Wave in the top 25. I'm here to flaunt that. I will pimp Tulane the rest of the year.
Willie Fritz.
For sure.
Beat Memphis this weekend.
Next Kansas coach, Willie Fritz.
I was going to say we may be facing Willie Fritz again next year.
I want revenge.
That could very well happen. All right, so Tim Brando is going to be on the call for this one. Womp womp. Would you rather listen to Tim Brando call this game or a wailing tornado siren for the entire 3 hours throughout the course of the broadcast?
Well, I have a lot of respect for Tim Brando, but I would choose a tornado siren. So
I have a lot of respect for him.
Well, we know he's going to somehow find this audio because he tracks everything.
But you still picked a tornado siren. I don't think you're tricking him.
You're right. You're right. Sorry, Tim. I
He's
really
bad
don't
at his job. He's not stupid.
No, you're really bad
Here's
at your
the
job,
thing.
Tim.
It's not that he's – look, I as a play-by-play guy – I mean, I'm really not a play-by-play guy anymore. In a past life, a play-by-play guy –
a past life. It's your current one. It's just a past job.
Okay, well, I understand.
You didn't have a job.
I understand how difficult that job is. Like, it is, you're playing air traffic controller. People do not understand. You've got producers talking in your ears. You're trying to look at spotting boards. You have a lot to keep straight. It is not an easy job.
Oh, Mitch says
Fortner it's easy over there. We do Power Cat Game Day with.
All right, well, he's doing it right now professionally, and I work a marketing job, okay? So let's take it easy on me. But it is not easy. So I try to be.
It's not easy, but it is easy to say someone's name correctly.
Well, here's the thing. It's not that he's lost a step. I mean, it's clear from a skill standpoint.
Yep.
He doesn't have his fastball anymore. He's lost it. But what he has maintained, and the reason that I crush him and it's annoying and I go and I have no fear or like I don't feel bad about bringing this up is because while his skills may have fallen off, his arrogance has not. And he is unbelievably arrogant. And that's the thing. Like when he fights with people and whatever, it's like, dude, if you just say, hey, man, it's a tough job. I'm getting a little old. Like, sorry, I may mess some things up every once in a while. Then maybe I wouldn't point out that you pronounced Felix Anudike-Uzama's last name 7 different ways in the Texas Tech game last year. Maybe I wouldn't point that out. But you're such an arrogant you-know-what while you do it.
Asshole.
That I'm sorry, you're going to get called out for it. That's the thing where if you age gracefully and you had some respect and were nice about it, and some humility about it, then we wouldn't do this every time. But I'm sorry, I'm here for all the Brando jokes because he's so damn arrogant.
Hey, we don't say asshole on the pod because it's a family show, and we know Matt Campbell. I can't let my child watch again because Matt
Campbell said a lot more than that.
Gosh, just, again, brutal. I can't touch on that. It just hurts to watch that language used, abusive to officials. Anyways, Tim Brando, I completely agree with everything he said. He is very arrogant. John, give us his saying. Give us his go-to saying.
How do you do?
We talked about Tim Brando on Power Cat Game Day last year, like a similar question, I think. When
Probably,
we did the show.
Yeah. I don't know if it was tornado siren, but give me the tornado siren.
Yep.
All right, finally, bigger number, Kansas wins the rest of the year or Texas losses the rest of the year? Kansas wins or Texas losses, which number will be higher?
I need like a schedule in front of me.
Texas losses. KU's going to win one more game at most. So,
I mean, they're going to get another one, don't you think?
I just said they're going to win one more game at most.
You kind of said at most, like as if it were in question.
Texas
they'll get it.
Texas Tech's the only game they have a shot at winning the rest of the way.
Oh, they can beat Baylor.
They won't win at Baylor.
They're not going to win at Baylor.
No.
And they're not going to win at K-State.
Yeah.
So
you got them beating Oklahoma State?
No.
You got them beating Texas?
No. What? One win.
How does this keep happening? Like, I come after you like you have a bad take, and then you just walk me through with logic and stats, and, then I'm, like, checkmated. I can't do – that's not how this works.
He's right. One win is the only guarantee.
Okay.
And I think Texas will.
I think they are good enough to get one.
They're good enough to get one. They can get one more because they had Texas last year. They can surprise someone else.
Yeah, I mean, at best, it's a push to me.
To me, the question on Kansas is 6 or 7. It's not 5 or 6.
Yeah, they're going to win 1 or 2 more games, and Texas is going to lose at most 2 more.
I think Texas absolutely. To me, I mean, if you put a gun to my head, what would I say? I would say there's a better chance of Texas losses being higher than Kansas wins. Because Texas, here, I understand how they could flip this narrative, and what I'm seeing in Austin is like, oh, program win, grinded it out against Iowa State in a spot where we would typically lose. And I get that would be how you like paint it with a rosy picture, rosy brush. But like right after the conversation during the week after the Oklahoma game is, oh, can 2-loss Texas push its way into the playoff? And that conversation starts heating up. If Xavier Hutchinson just catches a wide-open touchdown pass, they're losing at home to Iowa State and the worst offense in the league. So they did exactly what Texas always does, not handle business in these games. And, I mean, I said it on Twitter. In a normal year, it's a fool's errand to ask Texas to play consistently throughout 6 games of a Big 12 football schedule. This year, with how deep the league is, that just seems stupid to expect that. So I think that they've got another loss or 2 coming. I do.
I think they got 1 loss coming, maybe 2. Yeah.
Okay.
I think I'm push. KU, I think it's 1 or 2 more
No, you can't push.
KU gets 1
I would have
or 2 more
pushed.
wins.
I would have pushed, but I didn't because I respect the sanctity of quick hitters.
Then I will go Texas losses being higher.
Okay. Lead pipe lock of the week. We've got Cole at 4-2, DY and I at 3-3. Although we didn't totally remember all of our bets because it was a couple weeks ago. So I don't know. We kind of just guessed.
I'm pretty sure
DY,
we're right.
DY at Iowa at +3.5 against Illinois, and they lost by 3. So DY got it right. I had LSU winning outright against Tennessee, and they lost by 25.
Yeah, that didn't go well. Well, I'm going to start here with a pick that I know Cole likes. I'm going to take Cincy -3 at SMU. Cincinnati got kind of a clunker out of their system last week. I believe that was USF, right? Was that who they played last week? Who did? Cincinnati struggled against somebody not great
I thought
last
Tulane
week.
played USF last week.
Yeah, you're right. Let me
Jerry
look it up.
Bohannon now done for the season. Baylor transfer quarterback.
It's Gary Bohannon.
Gary,
Thank you.
sorry.
I can finally correct you on something.
Thank you.
No, South Florida was the last game that
they have a bye week then last week?
They maybe had a bye. Yeah, so it was.
That makes your bet even better. You got a fresh.
It does.
After Bearcat team.
Yeah. After your dud, SMU has. I mean, they're 3-3. They've been a little disappointing this year, trying to survive without. Speaking of Sonny Dykes, so I think Cincy playing for a Group of 5, BC or New Year's 6, bowl slot. I think they're going to win that game by 10-17.
For our listeners, that was actually my lock of the week, and John stole it. So. Yeah, I like that game clearly.
Well, I didn't hear that you had picked it. I picked it and was proud of myself, and then you said, oh, that's mine. And then I tried to pick another game, and you said, no, you take that one because I've got.
What's yours?
Oh, you're pitching to me to?
Yes.
Oh, I got Kansas State. Lock of the week. Lock of the week.
At what number?
What is it now?
I think it's all 3.5.
I've seen 4.
Well, it doesn't matter because Kansas State's winning.
Oh.
So you bet the money line.
Oh, so you're led by the lock of the week as a money line.
No,
so
I'm going to take the point still, but I mean, I'll be upset.
What's the point? You got to give us.
Just give me 3.5.
No, you're getting 4.
Okay, I'll take 4. Like, you act like that's a bad thing.
You're getting 4, and you'll like it.
You just gave him more than he
I
has.
know.
It's
You're
like
getting
the whole,
4.
Like, I want $1, but like, no. You just negotiated the wrong way.
$2, final offer.
All right, I'll take the 4. But I'm telling you guys, take the money line. K-State. Cats.
Okay, well, John is being inappropriate. I will take Bama minus 21. They're really good off a loss under Nick Saban. Mississippi State, I think, is kind of and Bryce Young should be healthier. It's another week removed from his injury. I like Bama minus 21.
So is Tennessee not legit? How legit is Tennessee?
They're legit. Hendon Hooker.
Playoff legit?
Really yeah, I think so. What do you think, Cole?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
They've shown enough.
Yep.
All right. Well, we know Cole is predicting K-State to win this game.
We'll see. Tennessee plays Georgia in a week or two?
I think it's 2 weeks.
Yep, it's it's the week K-State plays Texas.
Although is Georgia?
Because I started looking at college game day possibilities.
I was just going to say,
I was like, well, that's no chance.
I knew that it was stepping on our toes somehow.
They'll be in Athens for that one for sure.
Yeah.
But is Georgia a little bit of a fake?
That'd be an interesting game
maybe.
to watch.
I don't know, man. Oregon looks pretty good now, and they stomped Oregon.
I don't know, but Georgia, okay, is it just the excuse that Georgia's bored because they can't pull away from anyone?
Yeah.
They barely beat Mizzou.
Yeah.
Sorry, another Mizzou joke there.
You guys know my prediction here. I mean,
why don't you just start? I mean, how bad is this going to be?
It's not going to be murder, John. I think it's I'm going to take K-State 34, TCU 28.
34-28. All right, I've got 31-27 Cats. 31-27. I think there will be some points scored. 31-27 K-State.
Can I correct that? I think K-State's going to hold them to a couple field goals, actually, and not give up 4 touchdowns. 34-27.
Okay, 34-27.
34-20 K-State. 2 touchdown wins.
Wow.
That would class. I'd count that. Yeah.
34.
That
I like K-State.
You just told me every game was going to be close and stressful and all this, and then you just picked a 2-touchdown win.
6 at the end. Max Duggan as they're going for the
touchdown. K-State touchdown with a minute left to take a 2-touchdown lead.
Oh.
Well, K-State had a pick 6 the last time they were in Fort Worth.
That's right.
A.J. Parker.
Oh, jinx. So.
You guys get a room.
And this time, Will Howard's not playing quarterback, so that's...
Oh.
That's not very nice.
Okay, I'm sorry. Look, I love you, Will. I love you. But
hey, his little brother is going to be a heck of a recruit. So, Ryan Howard, 2024.
Ryan Howard,
not the baseball player.
No, not even that. Isn't that a character on The Office? Oh, gosh. Isn't that Ryan's name on The Office? Ryan Howard? Yeah. Okay. Well, all right. I really should take back that statement. Will, you're great. Howard family, I love you guys. Love you guys. And actually, Will Howard won that game, so I'm an idiot.
What's your prediction? Did you give one?
Yeah, I said 31-27.
31-27, okay.
34-20.
Okay, all right. So we all got the Cats winning.
Put your money on the Cats money line.
Well, yeah. When have we been wrong? So, yeah. Hey, shout out to Tucker Franklin, our producer, who's hung out all day with us, spent the whole day with us knuckleheads at Big 12 Media Day, and produced all of these shows for you guys and edits out some of the things that we may say off the air that shouldn't be included. So we appreciate Tucker for all the work that he did. And look, we got a lot. I'm doing your job here, John. I stole your job.
What are you doing?
Well, I want to promote all the basketball stuff we got. We got Uric Malagi on the pod. We got Jerome Tang that aired.
Kurtz.
We got Keontae Johnson pod coming next week. And
my job stolen.
We got a one-on-one with Keontae Johnson dropping next week, and then Naquan Tomlin and Marquise Noel dropping next week too. But
did you mention Scott Drew?
We got Scott Drew
to
today
Scott Drew.
too as
we
well.
just don't know how we're going to give you that one.
We'll figure that out.
Scott Drew is coming at some point. That's my guy, man. My man, Scott Drew. Now everybody has to love Scott Drew. It used to be I was the only one defending him when everyone was like, oh, all he does is roll the ball out there. He's not that good of a coach. Well, now we took his assistant, and we all love him, guys. So you got to love Scott Drew. Thank you to me for being an early Scott Drew adopter. Forget thanking Tucker. Let's thank me for being a Scott Drew early adopter, okay?
You have always been with Scott Drew. That is certainly to be fair. You've made great arguments.
Did you tell him that? Because I wasn't there for that.
Oh, I've told him that before at the little breakout sessions over there. One time I went over there and I was like, hey, I just want you to know,
kiss ass.
I'm the one guy in Manhattan that's been for years. I was like, for years, it annoys me. I was like, I think I asked him, like, does it annoy you that people perceive you to be? It was like around the Isaiah Austin time, you know, when they were recruiting like really, really well. And then like people just assume you just roll the ball out and you have this talent, you play a zone and like you're not that good of a coach. But I'm like, dude, you took over a team that couldn't even play a non-con schedule because there was so much scandal. They were terrible. And you've taken them to multiple Elite Eights. At that time, it was multiple Elite Eights. Like, do you think it's annoying? And, of course, he's nice and humble and didn't, shucks, you know, don't worry about it. But I appreciate you. You know, nice guy. Nice guy. So I built a rapport with Scott Drew over the years, yes.
But you didn't ask him about Jonathan Thachua today like I did.
I didn't. You did. You did get him very excited about that. Yeah, you did. Okay.
Well, that's what he kept doing to me. I really enjoyed it.
He did. He kept like grabbing him by the shoulder and stuff. Yeah.
I loved it, actually. Like, I was really eating it up.
It's Chama Chachwa, isn't it? Yeah.
Did I screw it up?
You said Thamba. Like you mixed up.
I did.
You said like you mixed Flo Thamba and Jeremiah Jama.
I was trying to impress Coach Drew.
All right, well, we're trying to be professional here, folks. Unfortunately, Cole has messed up our professionalism today, but we'll get on out of here on that note. I hope you will not remember us for that. You remember us for all the great things, very professionally, that we have done here on this pod. So, yes, for real, shout out to Tucker, who's done great work today with all of us here. And Holiday Distillery, go get your 360 vodka, your Ben Holiday bottled and bond bourbon. Continue to support them, and we will talk to you after